Welcome to Healing Your Families. I am so excited for the guest we have today. You know, in that movie Blind Side, it begins with a narrative. The woman is describing how the wise housewife writes out that first paycheck, that first check for the home for the mortgage on the home because you don't want to lose your home. But the second one goes to insurance. So I have a really special guest today to help us understand what every family needs to know about insurance. And this is Sarah Vigo, and she is a commercial and professional insurance broker. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, Emmylou, and talking about this very exciting topic, which, as you said, is essential.
Yes. And, you know, it's something that sometimes is confusing. And a lot of families don't understand why they need it and exactly what they need. So, well, first of all, I'd like to learn more about you and what led you to a career.
Absolutely. So, I have a background that has put me in various different roles and industries. I started in more of a marketing background, and I've worked in several different startup operations. And it dawned on me after I had moved to a sales role with an integrated risk management tech company that, number one, I really appreciated understanding how companies, and I'm talking enterprises, can cover their bases and make sure that they're doing what they need to be secure. And number two, I enjoyed more of the human element and the relationship building aspect of it all. So getting into insurance, which is an area of risk management that, as we've mentioned, is important, but also combining that with my experience in integrated risk management world was just the perfect combination to help people one-on-one.
That sounds great. So, you also work with businesses, and you know, a lot of families start a business, and it's quite often a good way to have a second income. But we don't always think of that businesses need to be insured.
Yes. And my company is, well, we're called the Aegis Group. We are a one-stop shop for insurance for personal and commercial insurance. And so that really makes sure that both of both families and their businesses are protected. And like you mentioned, it's something we don't always think of. We do one or the other, but there are a lot of areas that have gaps with your insurance that could really put you at a loss if you don't have the right coverage for your home or for your business.
You know, I had an interesting experience a number of years ago. Some children came knocking at my door. No, it wasn't the children, it was a father and children. And he explained that he was currently unemployed. So in the meantime, his family, his wife had an award-winning cookie dough recipe. So she made up batches of this dough and they sold it. Just went door to door selling cookie dough, and I tried it. It was absolutely delicious. I was calling them to order more, and this went on for a while until I guess he got a job because they stopped doing that. So just working out of your home, what types of insurance would you need for that?
It's a great question. While the cookie dough business sounds delightful, I would definitely want to partake in that as well. If you have a business that brings customers to your home, or you are making cookie dough and you're selling it out of your home, you're going to need special insurance, a business owner's policy, liability insurance, business personal property that protects you in the event that something happens with your business. And it's important to know the difference between a homeowner's policy and a remote worker's policy, or a, a, a business that you run out of your home, like this cookie dough business. Because if you don't have the right policy, you aren't going to get covered. If, let's say, you you have a kitchen that starts on fire because of you're making your dough and you're getting a bit too excited and you're not watching the oven, and you if you had that covered under your business personal property, you could get a claim answered, but it really depends on what type of insurance you have. Then again, if you have a homeowner's policy and you accidentally, someone vandalizes your garage and takes your equipment, but you don't have a business owner's policy in place, that equipment is going to be gone. And so, especially people who are artists, people who are web designers and have maybe a garage set up, this personal baker, anyone who is working out of their home should have a certain type of insurance set up if they're having customers coming to it.
I admired the family for doing this. That they were still providing for the family, still working, and yet you're right. I strongly suspect they didn't know that, and they were just taking that risk, and I'm assuming things worked out for them. But you sound like a valuable person to talk to if anyone is considering starting a family business or working from home.
Well, thank you. I enjoy working with entrepreneurs, especially and female entrepreneurs. It's fun to see how their businesses are growing and making sure that they're protected, especially if they are a mother juggling three different kids and trying to make their dreams a reality with their career from their upstairs office. It means a lot to be able to help them along their way.
Well, I think more and more single mothers are doing that. They're either maybe running a daycare out of their house, or like you said, have a office in one of the rooms. So knowing and understanding that they risk losing everything if they don't have the proper protection is excellent. It's well worth knowing. So, but what about for families that don't, don't have a business, but
Absolutely.
still, like some people think, oh, you don't need life insurance for children. What are some common myths people have about insurance?
That's a great question. And to begin with, you mentioned life insurance. I would argue everyone needs life insurance. Everyone who is anyone and can get a policy for any member of their family as early as possible because of the lower premiums, the fact that you don't have to go through underwriting and health screening. The earlier you get it all done, and the type of policies that you're selecting, it's essential, and you just never know what will happen. So just to first piggyback off of you said about life insurance, planning for the future is crucial. Now, what people don't realize about a home and an auto policy and just a homeowner's policy in general is that there are a lot of tactics you should use to make sure that you are planning for the future in a sense by protecting what you have currently. The more stuff we accumulate, the large investment of our home, the largest investment, many of us ever make is buying a home. And then let's say we have kids. Let's say we had a pool. Let's say we have some heirlooms from our family. The list goes on. And the more and more that our family grows, that our children are getting to know other children, that our lives are becoming intertwined with other families, the more, I hate to say it, but the excitement of it all, but the risk that we incur, because we need to protect what we've worked hard to build. And when we let people in, it becomes all that more important. So to start out with, I'd say the homeowner's policy is essential for anyone to have liability insurance and to make sure that everything is properly covered under their policy.
So this would cover if someone came to your front steps and slipped and fell, it would cover that.
Yes, you would want liability coverage, and we recommend, I would say, 300,000 or more dollars in coverage just for liability alone. But yes, if someone slips in front of your house, if you have a tree that you didn't trim that caught on fire a power line and caused damage to your neighbor. There are so many different reasons. And the most important part of it is that you, number one, know everything you have in your house. So if anything happens, you have a list of things that you care most dearly about. You schedule out your property and your heirlooms, and you have a trusted advisor, insurance agent who can properly cover you and isn't cutting any corners to make sure that you have that policy in place.
Well, I know many families, everyone in the family, even young children, have a cell phone. And I've wondered if they really understand just the value of just their electronics. If they added up the price of all of their computers, TVs, cell phones, tablets, laptops, I think that figure alone might surprise them.
Yes. And especially with family heirlooms, let's say a wedding ring or a really nice piece of art that you have. You want to make sure that you have that information documented with your insurance agent so that if anything happens and you lose your wedding ring, you can get it replaced for value and not for just what you bought it for. I have so many people who, if they don't have documentation of what it's appraised for, they don't get the full value if they were to lose it. And so that it's essential that you have the replacement cost value for that.
The appraisals. That is an excellent point. Some people consider those family heirlooms just sentimental value, but indeed they aren't. Now, I just wanted to go, just a question back on life insurance and whether or not children need to be insured. I think we need to understand, get the big picture and understand what is the purpose of life insurance. It's obvious that the purpose of auto insurance is to replace your car if it needs to be replaced, or your home. But can you talk about the purpose of life insurance?
Yes, absolutely. To answer the purpose of what life insurance is, what the purpose is for, would be to look at what you value in life and what it means to you. If it's retirement money, putting that away so that you can work hard now and enjoy your time later. If it is help paying off your mortgage, there's a policy for that. If you have children who maybe require additional assistance throughout their life and without your presence will need not just that assistance to continue, but the cost of that assistance forever, then you need to consider that. And if you are, let's say, in a single income family where there's one breadwinner and that person is contributing significantly, especially if the spouse just is taking care of the kids, or you never know the situation, but you need to think about what would happen if that person were removed from the equation and what would you be left with. The first thing to consider in life insurance is who is going to be left with the cost if you're gone. And it's a difficult and uh, emotional thing to consider, but you don't want them to take the farm,
No.
and the bank will. So that that is the most important thing to consider first.
I'm sure every parent wants to believe that they will die before their children do. But being being prepared, I think, would go a long way towards bringing ease and comfort and peace of mind.
Yes, and that is the peace of mind factor. The idea that at least you are covering your bases now in the event something does happen down the line.
Well, you know, some people have the idea that life insurance is just to cover the cost of the funeral. But it sounds to me like it goes much further than that.
And the funeral alone is expensive. And when you're in that situation and you have to not only deal with the loss, but deal with the stress of what you're going to do next, and just the emotional turmoil it takes on you, but then you have to figure out how to pay for the funeral, how to survive after that point. It can be traumatic. So it's very smart when people start thinking about it now.
Indeed, it is. So, what what advice do you have for families? You know, especially young parents. Their budget is stretched pretty tight as it is, and it's easy for them to think, I don't have money for savings. I'm not going to worry about insurance now. What advice do you have for them?
Well, on the life insurance side of things, I would definitely consider how much they can put towards a policy safely. And even if they have to change that policy, and it's only a short term policy and they can make it more of a universal one over time. If they can make that jump now and just have some money put away, that could do wonders and give them a lot of peace of mind, which is the insurance side of things that every agent says, "Well, we give you peace of mind," but it's true. Having the reassurance that you are protected in your assets and everything you worked hard for and your family, down to your pets, is essential. The next thing I would say is just to make sure you have someone who's going to look at your policies as a homeowner, on look at your auto and say, this is exactly what you need, or you need more, or you need less, because sometimes we are overinsured for things and we could easily move and rebalance our coverage to fit another area, or give you that money back. And that's what an insurance agent's job is, if you choose the right one, is to be an advocate for you.
All right, you just brought up two things that I really would love some clarification on. First of all, I don't think everyone understands that there are different types of life insurance. So address that. But
Okay.
before you do, let's get to what you were saying about finding out if you have the right amount of insurance. I think some people have had the experience, I know I have, of the insurance agent just wants to sell you as much insurance as they possibly can. How can you know you're getting an accurate assessment of your insurance needs?
Well, the short answer is turn to a broker that's more of a risk manager and will look at your policies with no strings attached, and will just tell you how it is and what's laid out. But the second, to be your own knowledgeable advocate for your policies, understanding what, first of all, your home is valued at. Your market value is not what your replacement cost value is going to be, but your replacement cost value is going to be what it's actually going to cost in order to replace a home. That comes down to the contractors, the building, the square footage, everything that you would not think of. But the market value is what you paid for it. So it's essential that you always want to have a higher replacement cost value than maybe not what your home, what you bought it for, what you think it's worth. So that's one thing to think about. Also, you never want it to be actual cash value, because that is not going to take into account, or that's going to remove depreciation from the factor, from the equation. Whereas replacement cost is going to be what it is valued at from an insurance and combined with your market value, actual cost to rebuild. So understanding more of, I am not very short-winded, my apologies, but understanding more about just what your assets are valued at is going to help you. Because, for example, I talked to someone one time who said, I had an agent who my parents used, and it was my parents' best friend. And I looked at my policy one day and I saw that my home, which is around 500,000, was listed for $1 million in coverage. And so you just want to be paying attention, because that was definitely overinsured and that person was being taken advantage of. So on the other side of things, when you get your policy back, if it says anything about an unfinished basement, if you have a finished basement, if the square footage is not correct with your garage, you want that to be corrected, because chances are the broker, the agent found a way to decrease the cost. And sometimes it doesn't matter, but it's all about being transparent. And when the claims come, you want to make sure that what you show as a flooded basement is the same as what you have written in your policy, because you're not going to get covered for that.
Wow, that is really good to know. Okay, we still have to get back to the different kinds of life insurance.
Oh, yes.
Next, explain the difference between a broker and an agent. You made it sound like the broker could be more objective and give, like, their commission isn't dependent on, the the amount of insurance you buy. So if you can just
Well,
briefly explain the difference between a broker and an agent.
I don't know. It's not necessarily interchangeable.
Oh,
Or
okay.
I mean, the difference between a broker and an agent, I would say it comes down to the difference between a captive agent and, yes, a broker, because someone who is an independent broker is not tied to one carrier, whereas a captive agent is tied to that carrier. And so they are working, their fiduciary responsibility is to that carrier, as opposed to a broker who, my responsibility, for example, is to my client. And so if I can't find them the best options with a carrier, I find them another one. So if you're in a situation where you have a captive agent who can only go to one carrier, despite inflation, despite challenges with increased claims in one part of the country that that person lives in, and the increase in the premium from that, then no matter what, you're going to have that person pushing to get you to buy that policy, or I mean, that's what they need to do, is they only have one option. Or they might cut corners to get you to buy their policy.
No,
So
that makes perfect sense. A captive agent, their primary concern is the company they work for. A broker or independent agent, their concern is the client, giving the client the best that they need.
yes.
Ooh,
And
I
but
love it.
Kat, I do want to emphasize, though, that just because you work as a captive agent for one company, that doesn't mean that you're going to cut corners or do things to
No.
try to kind of get the sale without being as transparent. It's just important for people to be aware of.
Yes. Definitely. Okay. In the last 5 minutes, briefly tell us the different kinds of life insurance. Not everyone is aware of that. And then tell us how people can contact you.
Okay, great. Well, the different types of life insurance. There are a number of different policies out there. There are policies that are term, which are they are only for a short period of time, 20 years. There are policies out there that provide a death benefit to a beneficiary. So when you watch these movies where they say, oh, they had a life insurance policy that paid out, you have to be very careful. And I make a joke about it, but it's also very serious that if you do have a certain amount of money that is on the line for a beneficiary, motivations cannot always be the best. So there are universal policies, and there are policies that are indexed or tied to the stock market and how it performs. So you can customize a policy that's going to fit your needs across the board. You can find a little policy for a kid and add to it over time. You can have a multi-million dollar policy if you have the ability to pay for that premium. Or you can even pay everything up front and just ensure that that money is going to come to you or to your beneficiaries eventually. So there are a number of different policies, and I wouldn't call myself exactly the best expert on life insurance, but what I am an expert at is knowing that you need to take the time to understand your options out there and based on your specific situation and talk to experts, because there are wonderful people out there who know a lot about it.
Ooh, I love those two key steps right there. Get the knowledge yourself, understand your situation, your needs, and talk to an expert, someone who can focus on your best interest. So, and you can work nationwide, so you're not restricted to any state. So, how do people contact you?
Yes, I can share my information, but I am with the Aegis group. My people can email me at sarah@aegis.insurance. There's no .com behind it, or call me anytime, 316-258-7262. Again, I'll include my information, but I love talking to my clients on the weekends and helping them as much as I can. And if I can't help them, I want to be a referral partner to my other friends and partners out there who could assist with them, all
And
the way
you're,
down to.
I was just going to say, and you're on LinkedIn. So, if they
Oh,
just
yes, and
put
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm
Sarah
on LinkedIn,
Vigo,
Facebook. Yes, Sarah Vigo on LinkedIn. So I'd love to talk to anyone who just wants a better handle of what their insurance is, or reassurance that they're in a good place with their insurance.
that's always good to know. Thank you, Sarah, so much for sharing your expertise. And
Thank you.
in closing, I'd like to remind our viewers to join us again next week at the same time. We're starting a new theme. We're going to be talking about education, just getting ready for back to school. And I am committed to supporting parents. I think families are the foundation of our society, and right now they're under attack. So I'm committed to provide support and guidance and useful tools for parents. And if you go to number 5, values, number 4, families.com, I have an amazing offer right now, a 25-minute presentation to help you as a parent in this weighty task of raising children. So join us again next week at the same time. Until then, love yourself, love your families. I'm Emmylou Penrod with HealingYourFamilies.com.